Sí, hola, ¿qué tal a todos amigos? Soy Wingo y yo hoy les vengo a enseñar a cómo instalar juegos desde Steam, sí, desde Steam, desde este querido programa, de este bendito programa que está aquí, que es el fabuloso Steam, o Steam, como, bueno, mi inglés no es que es tan bueno, digamos, ok, bro, alright. You people, what? Oh, wait, ok. Mi inglés no es que digamos que sea tan bueno, pero bueno, digamos que así se pronuncia el Stein. Stein, sí, digamos que sí. Bueno, lo primero que tenemos que hacer es descargarlo, donde dijimos a Google o a Brave o a Microsoft, de Hey. Bueno, alguna cosa se hace. De todas maneras, lo que se tiene es que cómo descargar los juegos es simplemente dirigirnos al navegador de Google, lo abrimos, dice alerta protección de Chrome, instalar ahora, veamos que es, no olvides al Norton, digamos que sí la necesito. Eso después lo miramos. Bueno, sí, lo que hacemos aquí es ponemos Dong Rock esta STEM. Mira, Steam, aquí Steam, Ultimate Online Game Platform, Player, Create Mode, bueno, así. Más o menos que en inglés sea, digamos, aquí se hace a los juegos al instante. Creamos Steam y el visor de, ya saben cuál es. Bienvenidos a Steam. O acá donde dice Doluan Steam. Pueden ser en cualquiera que a ustedes se les dé la gana, o sea, eso es decisión de cada quien. Nadie te va a obligar, bro, a descargarlo, nadie te va a obligar, bro. No, eso depende de cada quien. Lo instalamos y ya como se dan cuenta, se instala y queda la instalación. Queda aquí lista. Entonces ya después lo que hacemos es instalarlo, descomprimimos o algo y le damos como ejecutar como administrador. Y aquí lo tenemos en Steam. Entramos a la biblioteca. Sí, bueno, ya ahorita se edita y se pone, se tapa eso y otra cosa. Sí, también esto sí, obviamente que sí, también se tapa porque es importante. Aquí donde dice biblioteca, ya cuando tengamos a Steam, es una plataforma de videojuego, aquí puedes cargar cualquier juego que se te dé la gana. Hay juegos buenos, juegos baratos, juegos caros, de todo tipo de juegos que quieras descargar, o sea, lo que tú quieras jugar, lo que se te pegue, el gusto lo puedes descargar. Hay juegos gratis también, Steam tiene juegos gratis, juego de pago, esto se ve bueno. Digamos que sí, se juega. Puedes comprar juegos, digamos, ¿cómo se llama eso? En línea, y obviamente pues escuché por ahí que no eres el dueño de los juegos, pero sí tienes acceso a una licencia que te permite jugar a todos los juegos que tú necesites. Obviamente es para siempre, obviamente con la cuenta que tú tengas, ¿no? O la cuenta de Google o tu correo electrónico. Ya después cuando estés acá le das en tu tienda y acá en tu tienda pues tú vas a ver qué vas a descargar. Juegos, softwares, que sigue. Y aquí en biblioteca pues son los juegos que tú descargas. Por ejemplo yo tengo esta que es Apes, este es Call of Duty y Dragon Ball Zero. Entonces vamos a descargar primero Call of Duty y aquí en los juegos en la biblioteca le das instalar. Y aquí puedes escoger cualquier unidad del disco duro que tú quieras elegir, pero aquí lo que vamos a hacer es instalar en otra unidad. Por ejemplo, le das acá en administrar, perdón, aquí en donde dice, un momentico, gestionar, eso acá donde dice gestionar descargas, y acá donde dice la ajustes abrir de descargas, acá donde dice almacenamiento, están los discos duros que tú quieras añadir unidad, añadir. Por ejemplo, tenemos estos tres, voy a añadirlos todos, ya tenemos este, añadimos otro, ya está añadido, añadimos otra unidad, que es esta de 400, también está añadido, entonces ya aparecen añadidos. Tú puedes elegir este para descargar el juego, puedes elegir el otro para descargar el juego. O sea, son discos duros, discos mecánicos M2, SSD y M2. Sí, es muy fácil y sencillo. Recuerda, los pasos son fáciles y sencillos. Ahí donde dice que Steam, sí, Steam. Entonces vamos a descargar primero Call of Duty. Vamos aquí en descarga. Vamos al caché. Listo, borramos el caché. Estoy esperando que el caché se borre. Entonces, como el Steam se reinicia, se vuelve a cerrar y a abrir. Toca esperar que se vuelva a abrir. Aquí está. Listo, ya está otra vez saliendo. Listo, entonces ya después cuando estemos acá otra vez en Steam, nos dirigimos acá donde los juegos que quieras descargar. Y este lo vamos a descargar en la unidad que tú desees descargar, digamos. Vamos aquí en descargas, almacenamiento, y tenemos este que es de 827 gigabytes, que son 930, y más el Windows que está instalado ahí. Acá también tenemos Windows instalado, acá no. Entonces vamos a instalarlo, a ese vamos a instalarlo acá del 894, aunque hace falta un disco duro, raro. Déjame ver, añadir otra unidad. Ay, sí, no me digas. No quiero instalarlo. Espérate, hombre. El disco D es el mecánico. Tienen que tener en cuenta eso. Entonces no quiero descargar el juego en ese disco porque ese disco es mecánico y ustedes saben que el disco mecánico es reservado para el sistema. El disco D es este, el mecánico. Entonces voy a instalarlo acá, que es el otro, que es el SSD. Lo instalamos acá, le damos acá y aquí, acá en biblioteca otra vez, y le damos Call of Duty, instalar. Ahí tenemos, este es el disco de mecánico, este no, le damos aquí, que este es SSD, instalar. Esperemos que se descarga. O pues se está descargando, sí, se está descargando lentamente. Pues otras cosas más, recomendación, mejorar las gráficas y las RAM y el procesador y la board. El disco D es el disco mecánico, no se te olvide eso. No te olvides que los discos mecánicos son lentos porque son reservados para el sistema. Y estos discos SSD o M2, estos discos sí son necesarios para eso. Sí, para eso.
The depths of the ocean and its geography. The ocean is home to various geographical formations, among which the abyssal zones stand out. These are deep areas that are mainly found in the Pacific Ocean. Some of the most important ones include the Emden Abyss, near the Philippines, which reaches an impressive depth of 11,793 meters, the Ramapao Abyss, in the Baman Archipelago, with 10,660 meters, and the Nero Abyss, in the Mariana Islands, which reaches 9,636 meters. However, the maximum depth of the Mariana Plate exceeds 11,000 meters. In the Atlantic Ocean, we find the Puerto Rico Trench, which has a depth of 8,821 meters, and near the South Sandwich Islands there is another trench of 8,091 meters. The mid-ocean ridges. The mid-ocean ridges rise above these vast abyssal plains, enormous submerged mountain ranges that can extend for thousands of kilometers and rise between 1,500 and 2,500 meters from their base. Each ridge is made up of two mountain chains separated by a gap that can be between 20 and 53 kilometers wide. The axis of these ridges is made up of straight segments that are not always aligned and are separated by transform faults. These faults, which develop perpendicularly to the direction of the ridge, cause the blocks that delimit them to shift, being the main cause of seismic movements in these areas. The mid-ocean ridges form an interconnected system that exceeds 60,000 kilometers in length and whose total surface is comparable to that of the continents. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the first to be discovered, is a notable example of these formations. Mapping the ocean floor. From the 1980s through the early 1990s, data from two satellites, one American and one European, dedicated to studying the ocean floor were made public. Thanks to these advances, a more accurate and complete map of the sea floor has been created. Previously, mapping was based on data obtained by echo sounders, which sent sound waves to the bottom to trace its contour, which often resulted in inaccuracies. The new information has revealed that there are more than twice as many underwater volcanoes as previously thought and has confirmed the theory of plate tectonics. However, the new maps also show that the intersections of these plates are different than previously thought, suggesting that they are not as rigid as previously believed. By examining the ocean floor, it has become clear that the features on the seabed are reflections of what happens on the sea surface, creating bulges and depressions caused by the modification of the Earth's magnetic field. In addition to geographers and oceanographers, other groups, such as fishermen and industrialists, also hope to take advantage of this new data. With it, they seek to identify the types of rocks found on oil fields, as well as those associated with volcanic eruptions that form marine deposits of various minerals, such as gold, platinum, iron, and copper. Review questions. 1. What is oceanography and what are its branches? 2. What are the different oceanographic movements? 3. What factors influence the variation of sea salinity? Geology. Fjords are orographic formations characteristic of the Norwegian coast. On the left, you can see the Seven Sisters waterfall in the Geiranger Fjord, and on the right, the view of the Eagle Fjord. On the other hand, platforms correspond to territories whose coastal areas have significant elevations, such as mountain ranges. In South America, for example, platforms are represented by the plains of the Atlantic coast, while mountain ranges are found in the Andean region, on the coast of the Pacific Ocean. Sometimes territorial valleys extend along the continental shelf, reaching great distances from the coast, as is the case with the Indus River or in the Norwegian fjords. This type of formation is also found on the coasts of Iceland and Greenland, the Labrador Peninsula, a large part of the island of Newfoundland, as well as in Alaska and the Pacific coasts of Patagonia and Tierra del Fuego. The total extension of these fjords is approximately 30,000 kilometers. In addition, the irregularities of the surface relief include promontories or higher parts of the platforms that emerge from the water, forming islands, often aligned, or even archipelagos. The underwater relief. The continental platforms reach depths of up to 200 m and their extension from the coast varies according to their location. Thus, the underwater extensions of the flat and low-lying territories are usually more extensive. The pelagic region is found from 200 m depth up to around 2000 m, where intermediate zones are located. Beyond this, there are sharp declines that constitute the pelagic region, which is the most developed in the oceans and receives few mineral deposits. These deposits are very fine and uniform, formed by organic remains, such as radiolarians, and by inorganic materials, such as certain types of clay. As for the abyssal zone and the large ocean trenches, beyond the pelagic region lies the abyssal zone. This area, related to the large continental rises, is important for understanding the significant fractures and depressions on the ocean floor. The deepest points are found in the ocean trenches, which are relatively small and are linked to the subduction zones on the active continental margins. The floor of these trenches is composed of what is called deep-sea clay. Main ocean trenches name ocean location estimated depth of Puerto Rico Trench Atlantic Sargent Islands M 9145 0 Solomon Islands Pacific Solomon Islands 9427 m Marian Trench Pacific Marian 11034 m as Aldrich Trench Pacific Point 10793 m Rico Pacific Trench, Pi Alago 10,000 m Philippines. Geography and ocean phenomena. The gravitational pull of the sun and the moon affects the Earth's oceans, causing phenomena that sailors and scientists observe and study. Different scales are used to classify waves. The International Douglas Scale, for example, measures wave height and establishes a relationship between wind strength and sea state. This scale ranges from level 0, which represents a calm sea, to level 9, which indicates a very rough sea, with waves exceeding 10 meters in height. On the other hand, the Beaufort Scale, which also takes wind into account, ranges from 0, calm sea, to the range of 12 to 17, which represents a hurricane. In addition to these, there are other ways to classify waves, considering factors such as their frequency and speed. Tides. Tides are another important phenomenon, the result of the joint influence of the moon and the sun on the seas. The gravitational pull of both stars creates a bulge in the water in the areas of the Earth that are aligned with them. Although the moon exerts a stronger pull than the sun, its position relative to the Earth and factors such as the Earth's rotation and local geographic conditions give rise to various tidal combinations. When the moon and the sun are aligned with the Earth, during the new moon and the full moon, the strongest tides occur, known as spring tides. The maximum point of a tide is called high tide, and its lowest point, low tide. On the coasts, these tidal oscillations can reach amplitudes of up to 18 meters. In some places, such as the Bird Island in Argentina or Mont Saint-Michel in France, these movements are very spectacular, transforming the landscape in a matter of hours. Marine currents. Marine currents are not only found on the surface of the ocean, but also in its depths, although deep currents are mainly detectable by temperature differences. Surface currents usually have a moderate speed of just a few kilometers per hour, although they can increase in narrow areas. These currents are strong enough to influence the navigation of ships. There are two main types of currents: coastal currents, which are usually influenced by local factors such as wind and tides, and general currents, which have a greater range. The latter are driven by the prevailing winds and differences in water density. They are further divided into cold and warm currents according to their origin. Cold currents, with more linear trajectories, move from the polar regions towards the equator, while warm currents circulate in the opposite direction, moving clockwise in the northern hemisphere and counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere. Both types of currents affect the climate of the areas they travel through. Cold currents often create cold and dry climates, such as the Atacama Desert in Chile and Peru, influenced by the Humboldt Current, or the coasts of Labrador in Canada, affected by the current of the same name. In contrast, warm currents raise the air temperature at high latitudes, which generates condensation and rain. Along the coasts, areas of cliffs and beaches alternate, as on the Spanish coast, where both elements combine in a spectacular landscape. Oceanography. Human interest in the sea dates back to ancient times. Since then, the sea has been seen as a source of resources, mainly food, through fishing and the collection of some types of algae. It has also served as a communication and transportation route, and more recently, as a source of exploitation to obtain resources such as oil. This fascination with the sea has been a constant throughout history. Today, the oceans are also explored in search of answers about the origin of the planet and of life itself. All these topics are covered by oceanography, the science that studies the various aspects of the seas, and which is divided into four main branches: physical, chemical, geological, and biological oceanography. Physical oceanography deals with studying phenomena such as temperature, density, pressure, and salinity, as well as the general behavior of seas and oceans. On average, the concentration of salts in seawater is 35 grams per liter, although this value can vary. The predominant salt is sodium chloride. The salinity of the sea can change for various reasons. The entry of fresh water from rain and rivers, for example, dilutes the salinity. Rivers such as the Amazon, the Orinoco, and the Rio de la Plata in South America, or the Ganges and Brahmaputra in the Bay of Bengal, and the Zaire and Niger in the Gulf of Guinea, are examples of this influence. In addition, temperature also affects salinity. In tropical seas, where rainfall is scarce and high temperatures cause strong evaporation, salt levels are usually higher due to the action of the trade winds. In these cases, the Atlantic Ocean stands out for being the most saline, reaching a concentration of up to 37 grams per liter in these warm areas, while the Pacific Ocean is closer to the global average. The Red Sea is the sea with the highest salinity, surrounded by deserts and receiving very little fresh water. Their high temperatures contribute to a high level of evaporation, while rainfall is so scarce that in some periods it does not rain at all. The behavior of the oceans includes phenomena such as currents, tides, and the propagation of different physical stimuli in the aquatic environment. Chemical oceanography studies the interactions of seawater with the atmosphere, coasts, and the seabed, while geological oceanography delves into the formation and composition of the ocean floor.
Y listo, ya se acaba de instalar, es muy fácil y sencillo. Ya pues lo detenemos porque voy a hacer otra de configuración, tengo que darle el máximo rendimiento al juego, a Steam también, para que juegue súper bien. Y así amigos, así se descarga Call of Duty o también Dragon Ball Sparking. Esto lo vamos a instalar acá en el de... no sé si dejarlo en el C. ¿En cuál parte lo dejé? El D, el C, el A y lo puse en el C, en el E. Vamos en el E. Y así se descargan los juegos amigos, así que muchas gracias, soy Carlos Acuña, vengo a Acuña, es un placer servirles. Espero que les guste este video y denle me gusta y suscríbanse y denle a la campanita para que se pueda mejorar el contenido. Muchas gracias y feliz día para todos. Gracias.